we're going over Legends of Tomorrow, episode 14, and the one about them being trapped in the television. And I feel like they should have called the episode should have either been called "Fates Be Praised," or it should have been called "But on the other hand, why not?" So, so the episode starts like where we last left. Charlie had been sent back to the Wave Rider in order to team up with with her sisters to try to save everybody because they just got killed in a bar by a bunch of zombies. Charlie was supposed to save the legend, stop her sisters, and save reality, but instead Charlie took the coward's way out, and she literally ended up teaming up with her sisters, and they created a new world, a world where the fates are in charge. There is no free will, and they're controlling everybody. They have the human population enslaved, and they have them basically correcting time for them, and like I said, just altering people's destinies and changing people's fates. And there's no free will, and everybody has to eat mush. Like there's no real food. The only thing that they Mona came back. She's one of the slaves, and Gary, he's also one of the slaves. But Gary, because Gary worked with the legends, he actually remembers that things aren't right. He doesn't know how things aren't right, but he knows things aren't right. And he's actually the crazy guy with the sign up saying that, the world has changed, don't be fooled. And, but he even walked up to Mona. He was just like, my name is Gary. And then she was like, I don't know, you crazy man. And then she walked away. So Mona goes home. She turns on the TV because they are allowed food and television privileges. But the television is designed to basically keep the people in check. Like the television is designed to, put subliminal messages and manipulate people, telling them, praise the fates. The fates are our saviors. Eat the mush. Don't rise up. Don't think for yourself. And the way that they do that, they come up with these different shows that the legends are starring in. Because Charlie said that the only way, like in order for her to save the legends, because she wanted to save them, but her sisters didn't. Her sisters wanted to kill them. So in order for Charlie to save them, she had to put them on the television show to save their lives. But at the same time, the sisters were like, "Fine, you can save them. You can put them on the TV show." But their job on the TV show is supposed to be to supposed to keep the people enslaved and provide our message. So the first TV show that pops up was a show called Ultimate Buds, starring Bayrod and Zari. So Bayrod's back. Part of Charlie, quote unquote, doing the right thing for everybody. She brought Bayrod back, and she has Bayrod and Zari on a TV show where they're brother and sister who live together. Nate's on the show as well. He's their next door neighbor, and him and Zari play the will they won't they game. He's like the goofy, like next door neighbor who's trying to break into acting. He even said that he auditioned for Arrow, and I he said he auditioned to play Robin Hood on a TV show called Arrow, and I thought that was pretty funny. And so then so they're talking, like they're making jokes. They got the laugh track going in the background. And Zari and Nate, they're talking about, oh, like that time we almost kissed. And it's just like it's very like 90s, like 80s 90s sitcom goofy. So then there's a moment where Nate has like the crossbow that he was using for the Arrow TV show. He accidentally fired the crossbow. It fired into one of the mush jars, and the mush exploded all over the place. So and it exploded all over the place, and it also got all over Bayrod. So Bayrod took the mush. So Bayrod, like he was taking it. He was like he had to go clean himself up. The totem. The wind totem got dirty. He took the wind totem off, put it on the table, and then he went in the bathroom to go clean himself. The totem started acting up, and then when Nate touched the totem, like the old Zari popped up out of the totem. So I guess despite everything that's happening, like despite like the Loom sisters controlling fate, whatever, the spirit of the totem, like I guess you can't change that. So Zari's spirit popped out of the totem. She saw Nate. She was trying to talk to Nate. She didn't know what to do. So, but because she was a spirit, she basically put herself, like old Zari put herself into new Zari's body, and she took over new Zari's body. So now the old Zari is back. She embraces Nate. She's just like, what's going on right here? Because as of right now, she's the only person that notices that there's something weird going on. When she saw Nate, like she hugged him, like she embraced him. She's like, I thought I'd never see you again. And then when Bayrod came out, she almost lost it because remember, in the original timeline from last season, Bayrod was dead. So, she hugged and embraced Bayrod, and she was trying to talk to them about, we're the, like, you guys are the legends. What's going on here? We're trapped in a TV show. This isn't real. Like, this whole thing isn't real. So just like in a regular TV show, there's like the three walls and like the invisible fourth wall. She ends up making a reference to the invisible fourth wall that had a door in front of it. She says to Bayrod and Nate, she's just like, what's behind this door? And they're just like, well, I don't know. We've never actually opened the door before. So they open the door and it's television static. So, Zari's whole thing is like, something's not right. And, she even said, she was like, I guess like you guys fought the Loom sisters and lost. So now, the fates are controlling everything. So she's like, let's jump into this TV static and see if we can find our friends. So the three of them jump into the TV static and they end up on another show called High Castle Abbey, where Astra and her mother, because her mother's back, Astra and her mother are the high class aristocrats that, that own the house. And John Constantine is their lonely servant. He still has his magic, which is weird. Like, he could still do magic tricks. But so now the three of them, they're in the mansion. They're just like, wow, like we're at, we're on a different TV show now. And then the script for the TV show was Bayrod and Zari had come to the show because Bayrod was supposed to marry Astra, so their two rich families can unite and create like more riches, create a richer family. So, and Astra's whole thing, Astra was just, she was just down with the whole thing. She played like Astra was the complete opposite of what we've known her to be, because so far we've known Astra to be like angry, bitter, she's been kind of bitchy and like snappy, but here she was just like all sweet and innocent, and then but she still had that sense of adventure where she was just like, like, I know I'm supposed to be a lady and I'm supposed to marry this guy, for like, for status and this and the third, but she was just like, she told Bayrod at one point, she said that she wished she was born a man, and I was like, whoa, hold up. She said she wished she was born a man because at least then she'd be allowed to adventure, because in the world that they live in, women are, best seen and not heard, and like their moms, and well, they don't even take care of the kitchen. They got a kitchen staff for that. But she said that she wanted to go on an adventure. And then Bayrod was like, well, why don't you? He was like, don't let your mom like hold you back. But Astra's one thing, like the whole thing that's been driving Astra throughout the entire season was seeing her mom, and her mom was with her. So there was a part of her, but I guess like because she was brainwashed and thinking that the TV show was her life, she didn't have that whole thing about wanting to see her mother. She actually wanted to leave her mom and leave the house because she wanted to explore, so Zari ends up talking to, to Constantine, like old Zari, because she's just like, what happened to John Constantine? And then when she finds out that Constantine has his magic, she tells like her and Nate, they're just like, hey, listen, we need you to help us find Sarah. Sarah's supposed to be our captain. So since you do magic, use your magical mumbo jumbo and help us find the captain. So then Bayrod and Astra show up, and then Astra's like, are we going on an adventure? And then Constantine's like, no, milady, you can't go on the adventure. Then she's like, she's like, Mr. Constantine, I will not stay in the house. Bottled up, I will go out and explore. So, he does the magic thing, and then all of them disappear to go find, because the spell had found Sarah. So they find Sarah, and they come to find out Sarah and Ava, they're on a so-called Star Trip, which is obviously Star Trek, but they can't say that. So both of them are the captain. They're basically Captain Kirk and Mrs. Spock. They're still dating, like they're still a couple, and their entire crew is full of robots. They're the only two living organisms that exist on the ship. So they go throughout space, destroying people and killing their enemies. And when Zari and the rest of the gang materialize on the Star Trek show, they're actually on the enemy ship, dressed as like Klingons. I guess they were like, like the alien monsters. They were trying to talk to Sarah. Then they were just like, hey, listen, like we're not here to fight, and then like we're not gonna hurt you. And then of course Nate pushes the button and fires on them, but then he damaged their ship. And then when the robots died, the oxygen on the ship started going, and right before Sarah and Ava died, they got teleported onto the Klingon ship where the rest of the legends are. So they're trying to talk to the two of them. They're just like, hey, you're our captain, like you're both our captains, and we're not supposed to be here. We're trapped in like in an alternate reality. And then because Ava's like Mrs. Spock, she was just like, yes, an alternate reality. That makes perfect sense. That we're not supposed to be here. And then Sarah was doing the Captain Kirk voice like the entire time. She was like, this does not make sense at all. So I thought that was pretty fun. They did that very well. But because the two of them pretty much accepted the whole situation very quickly, there wasn't a lot, it didn't take a lot of convincing. So they were just like, all right, what's the next step? It's like, how can we get out of here? And then Sarah and Ava had said, they just said, they were tracking this transmission the whole time. And then she was just like, they can't make anything of the of this transmission, but it's strange. So she was like, guys, take a listen and let's see what you think. So they played the transmission, and then, it was like singing. And then they recognized it. They were just like, yo, that's Mr. Parker. That's Mr. Parker's cul-de-sac. Jesus Christ. Like the, AKA Mr. Rogers. And, because remember, they had the Mr. Parker show earlier in the season because of Ray. And, so now they were just like, all right, let's communicate, like, let's send out a message to this, to this Mr. Parker. They send out a message to him, and then magically they disappear from Star Trip, and we're right back on Mr. Parker's cul-de-sac. I can't even say that with a straight face. Anyway, so yeah, so we're the gang's all there. Everybody's at Mr. Parker's house. He's talking to the legends. He's trying to sing his song, and they're just like, all right, dude. Sarah kicks him out the house, and then they all start talking. And then again, because Zari's the only one that remembers how things used to be, she was trying to tell them, she was like, you guys are the legends, you're supposed to fight for justice, and you're supposed to be the misfits that don't take no ish from anybody, and this, that, and the third. And she was like, if you guys will remember, we can, try to come up with a way to solve this. And then at that point, Mona and Gary, like Mona had, like, cause when Zari had first, when old Zari first, appeared, she was talking to Nate. She asked Nate, she was like, where's the team? She was like, where's Ava? Where's Sarah? She's like, where's Mona Wu? And then Mona was home watching the TV show, and she was just like, wow, they said my name. And then they had mentioned Gary's name, and she was like, the guy that I met outside was named Gary. So she went and found Gary. The two of them clicked up. They went down to the TV broadcasting studio where all the shows are made, and they saw this device that was creating a script for the show. Anything that the show would write, that the typewriter would write, that's what the guys would say on the show. So Ramona basically jumped on the typewriter, and she made her own edits, and she ended up typing out the show for them. And then she wrote on the thing, she was like, it's at this very moment the legends remembered who they are. So then suddenly, like, all the legends remember who they are. Everybody snapped out of it. They woke up. Sarah was just like, wow. She was like, I remember hanging out with Bayrod. I remember both Zaris. Like, Sarah has like 3 memories of that family, like, going through her head. Ava immediately remembered, the fact that Sarah died in the bar. Everybody, like, everybody was just remembering, like Nate remembered the old Zari and everything. So then they all got their memories back, and they were just like, well, damn, the fates tricked us, like Charlie tricked us, she put us on a TV show. And then that's when the actual Charlie, she showed up at the TV studio, and she cursed out Mona and Gary. And then she's like, I put them here on purpose in order to save their lives. So she was just like, I got to fix this, because if they leave the show, like, my sisters are going to kill them. So Charlie got on the typewriter, and then she made Mr. Parker come back. And then Mr. Parker came back, and then started, he started doing a song, basically telling them to forget about their, to forget about what they've learned, go back to the lives that are created for you, regress, don't worry about your feelings, put your feelings aside, and just go back and do what you do. It worked for Ava, and then Ava and Sarah disappeared and ended up back on Star Trip. Nate tried to fight it, and then that didn't work for Nate. And then all 3 of them ended up back on their sitcom. And then John tried to fight it, like Constantine tried to fight it, but then Astra was just like, she didn't want him to fight it, because she was like, my mom's at the house. And she was just like, now that I got my memory back, she's like, I remember the only reason why I was doing all this was to save my mom, and my mom's there at the house. And then, Constantine was like, yeah, but it's not real love. And then she was just like, I need to go back. So he gave in, and then the 2 of them went back. So Charlie's like, thank God. So so everybody's back where they belong. And Sarah ended up talking to Ava, because Sarah was just like, look, she was just like, because Ava's whole thing was, she was like, I watched you die, and I can't bear to see you die. And then she was like, if we stay here on the show, none of us will ever die. And then Sarah was like, yeah, that's because the show is designed to make sure that we win all the time and that we never lose. And then she was just like, that's whack. She was like, part of life, part of the journey. She's like, I don't want to be in a situation where I know I'm going to win all the time, because she's like, yo, that shit is corny. She was just like, part of taking life is to take the risk and take the challenges. So then at that point, the entire cast was there. Before everybody got sent back to their show, I was like, wow, this is a shitload of people. It's like 15 people. And in the back of my mind, I was saying to myself, I was like, all right, well, eventually somebody's going to rise up and save the group. But then I'm like, well, I guess nobody can save the group. And then it dawned on me, I was like, where the hell is Mick? And then Mick showed up. Mick showed up on the ship after Sarah was given this. After Sarah gave Ava the speech, and Mick had like the long. Mick showed up in like the last 10 minutes of the episode. I was like, wow, dude. And then they showed his daughter and his mom because her mom, her daughter, and her mom because they're also slaves to the Fates, and they were watching the Star Trek program. So Mick's like the bad guy on Star Trek. And then he was just like, I'm gonna blow up your spaceship. And then Sarah was like, go ahead and do it, and then the crew, they were just like, do you want us to fire back? And she was like, nope. And then Mick fired on the ship exploded, they finally lost the battle, and their show got canceled. And then the two of them popped up in the TV studio where Charlie, Mona, and Gary were. So then we're back on Constantine and Astra's show, and then Astra had a conversation with her mom. She was talking to her mom, and then her mom had given her a present because earlier in the show, when Astra was supposed to marry Bayrod, she was talking to her mom. She was telling Bayrod how she wanted adventure and how she wanted to explore the world, this, that, and the third. Her mom told her, she was like, listen, dear, she's like, I heard you talking about how you wanted to explore, so I bought you a ticket to London. She was like, she's like, I wouldn't be happy if you gave up your life just to make me happy by getting married. So she was like, go out there, live your life, do what you got to do. She's like, I'm your mom. She's like, I love you anyway. And then Astra felt bad, and she was just like, yeah, you're right, John, we can't stay here. Because she was just like, it's not real. And plus now, thanks to the Fates, she does have a lifetime of memories with her mom because she was put in a situation and she was put in a life to where she had a chance to live with her mom. So she knows who her mom is now, and she knows the situation they're in isn't right. So she told John, she was like, yeah, you're right. She was just like, let's get out of here. So he does his magic spell, and they get off the show. They're back in the TV show with everybody else. So now we're back on the sitcom, and then Zari's talking to Nate, and then Bayrod's there, and then, Bayrod was just like, I can't. He was just like, now that I got my memory back, he was like, I can't go back to eating this mush. And then Zari was just like, yeah, she was like, everybody tells us to eat the mush, but she, it was weird because since they're on a sitcom, there was an audience. So she addressed the audience, which was Fate slaves, and she told them, she was like, yo, fuck this. She's like, yo, screw the Fates. Screw this mush. She's like, don't eat the mush. Don't do what you're told. Rebel. She took the mush and threw it at the camera, and then their show got canceled, and then the three of them ended up in the studio. So then Charlie starts wigging out, and then she's just like, yo, I did this to save you guys. And then everybody was like, nah. She was like, you did this basically to, like, what you did, you enslaved us. Like, you didn't save us. And and then she was just like, but if you guys break out of here and if you go after my sisters are going to kill you. And then they were just like, hey, we'll take our chances. We'll battle your sisters, and then we'll let fate, decide like the outcome. So then Charlie starts panicking, and she's just like, she's like, but I gave Astra her mom back. And then she's like, I brought back Bayrod. And then she was like, Zari, she's like, you guys want the Zari, right? So she took Zari's like life thread, she split it in two. So now we got the new Zari and we got the old Zari. Because even Constantine, because Bayrod had said at one point, because he, talking to old Zari, he was just like, hey, he was like, no beef. He was like, I love old Zari, whatever. But he's like, where's the actual sister that I know? Like the ditzy, Kardashian sister. And then Constantine was like, yeah, where's that girl at? Because Constantine was banging her. So, Charlie split the thread in two. So now we got the new Zari and the old Zari. And, the old Zari, was kissing Nate. The new Zari like embraced like the old Zari, and like the new Zari embraced Bayrod. The old one was making out with Nate. So now we got two Zaris on the show. And they told Charlie, they was like, listen, Charlie, they were like, sorry, Charlie, but we're here to do what we got to do, and we're coming after your sisters, and we gonna bust this whole loom shit up one way or the other. And then all of them walked away. Charlie started, Charlie was just like, freaking out, and then like that's how the show ended. So that was pretty cool. I like having both Zaris on the show because that's going to bring an interesting dynamic to what's going to happen. It's like which Zari stays, because we all know at the end of the season both Zaris aren't going to stay. So which Zari stays, which Zari goes. Are we going to act? I mean, hell, if we do get two Zaris for next season, that'd be pretty funny. Astra's obviously joining the Legends. Mick's obviously going to leave. We don't know what's happening with Sarah and her blind powers because she had her eyesight in this episode. Next week is the season finale. And I was just like, because Legends usually gets anywhere from 16 to 17, maybe 8, sometimes 18 episodes. And this is the first time they're stopping at 15 on the dot. They're not going to get the 16th episode. I wonder if the pandemic has anything to do with that, or if they just decided to end it early, because Legends didn't start this season until after the crisis, until like Legends episode 1 was part 5 of the crossover. So Legends didn't start till January. But for all we know, they could have shot their, because all the shows start shooting again in like July, like July and August. So if they started shooting their shows since July, they would have shot 16 episodes by now, and the pandemic wouldn't even have affected their show. Whereas like the other shows had to end early, because of because of canceled production. But I'm like, Legends shouldn't have had that problem if they started filming early. So I'm like, maybe they just got 15 episodes. Maybe like the story that they wanted to tell could have been wrapped up in 15. So we'll see. I mean, obviously reports will come out later, if their show got cut short enough. But we're ending Legends at 15. So the only prediction I have for next week's episode is that we're taking on the Fates, and Charlie's obviously going to, have a change of heart, whatever. I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody will die, maybe somebody won't. But the only prediction that I will have is that one of the Zaris will die. Like, that's my prediction. Like, one of the two Zaris will die. They'll make the ultimate sacrifice for the rest of the team. Astra's going to join. Astra's going to end up joining the Legends at the end of the season, and Mick's going to leave. Sarah will not keep these blind powers after next episode. Like, she's not going into the next season with the blind powers. So that was it. That was my review for Legends of Tomorrow. Got Stargirl and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming up. Everybody, keep it locked. Stay safe out there. Leave a comment below about what you think is going to happen in the Legends of Tomorrow season finale. And for next week, until I see you guys again, as always for Legends, I'm out this bitch!